On April 11, 2019, a gun battle erupted in a retirement community of Phoenix. It was a sunny Thursday morning, just before 10 a.m. on the neighborhood's main thoroughfare. The shooting involved federal agents and a suspected human smuggler.
911, where's your emergency? There's gunfire, there is an accident. I'm not sure. How many shots? How many shots? Hundreds.
A woman who was not the target of the investigation was killed at the scene. 4 others sustained gunshot wounds or other injuries.
I mean, they just sprayed bullets everywhere, and there was a big crash. It's on 48th Street. It's right behind our house.
This is Special Agent Ahwatukee of Homeland Security. I have an agent involved in shooting.
You're with ICE?
Yes, ma'am. Homeland Security Investigations.
The incident rattled neighbors like Frank Guy, who was landscaping in his yard when the shootout began.
And I heard the sirens coming down the street, so I got up on the park bench here and I looked and I saw the cars chasing another car with their lights on. And as they passed, I noticed there was no insignias on the car. They were unmarked cars. I heard this huge crash. It was like a mini atom bomb. It looked like a mushroom cloud of trees and dust and concrete. And then the shooting started. And I definitely understand when people say it was like a war zone, because I haven't heard that much rapid fire in that short of a period of time since I was in Vietnam 50 years ago. There had to be at least 50 to 100 rounds of gunfire.
On the other side of 48th Street, Nick Dalton was at his mom's house, drywalling her garage.
I remember hearing like a bang, and right after I heard like a ping, 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 and I was like, that's gunshots. I know bullets can travel through things, and the way these houses are built, it'll go right through like a piece of paper, you know?
Are we working with them? We'll work with you guys on this guy. He's trauma code, he's still breathing.
He's got a gunshot wound right here though, but he's still breathing.
The agents involved are from Homeland Security Investigations, a division of ICE. HSI is the largest investigative unit of the Department of Homeland Security. Its agents have broad authority covering over 400 border-related crimes, from human smuggling to gangs to financial crimes. HSI's Special Response Team was trying to arrest Warren Jose, a suspect in a human smuggling case. But Jose wasn't alone that day. In his SUV with him were 2 friends, driver Teresa Medina Thomas and Valentina Valenzuela. Also in the car were 2 migrants who had recently crossed the border from Mexico. Phoenix police responded to a 911 call from HSI for assistance. They collected evidence and conducted interviews to help local prosecutors review HSI's use of deadly force.
So the way that it appears is that you guys are trying to run some illegal aliens up here from cells, try to make some money, and then things broke bad. It's a hot business out there on the res.
Jose, Valenzuela, and Thomas are from the Tohono O'odham Nation, a Native American reservation on the U.S.-Mexico border with high poverty and unemployment.
They see opportunity in that there's folks out there with no money, very little food, very little education, very little clothing, and so they wave money in front of them. That you could go almost every other house and someone in that house has either transported drugs or people.
On April 11th, Jose was driving from his reservation back to Phoenix. The HSI agents planned to arrest him when he returned to a hotel he'd been spotted at the day before.
The morning I contacted the case agent, the vehicle that the subject of the arrest warrant was suspected to be using triggered a license plate reader from the Tohono O'odham Reservation.
An agent said he thought he had spotted the vehicle and he was trying to catch up with it to verify the plate.
The vehicle exited Chandler Boulevard, and instead of going eastbound towards our location, it traveled westbound on Chandler Boulevard.
Jose's SUV was now entering the Phoenix suburb of Ahwatukee. It traveled north on 48th Street, trailed by 3 unmarked agent trucks.
And I heard one of the girls telling the agent, there's a fucking truck. It's like one of those narcs. I asked them, I said, you guys know anybody that knows you guys are coming back? Because, people like to steal people.
At that point, I was concerned that they had made surveillance, and based on prior activities The prior flight from law enforcement was concerned about the subject fleeing the area, and I called for a traffic stop. We call it a pinch maneuver. Pinch maneuver is one vehicle in front, one vehicle behind, and one vehicle along the side of the target vehicle. The number one vehicle slows down, not providing a way of escape. The number two comes up, bumper touch those, and the third vehicle contain that vehicle.
I initiated my emergency lights, and as soon as that happened, the vehicle abruptly scooted like this. I literally watched them hit the vehicle one last time, and it forced Rich to lose full control, and he went into the tree and hit the wall.
I notice Mortensen getting out of his vehicle, and that's when I hear shots fired.
My initial reaction was I need to end this as soon as possible. So I gunned it and they gassed it. I cannot see inside the car because as soon as we collide, I start taking rounds.
Yeah, it looks like it.
According to police, the 4 special response team members fired roughly 80 rounds at Jose's SUV.
It's a kill shot at the top.
Jose fired an AK-47 from the passenger seat 24 times, never exiting the vehicle.
There were a lot of cops there, and they tried to pull you guys over, and little T took off. So everybody saw you fire first. So I'm trying to understand why.
If anything, I would have had to be scared. And I know what it's like dealing with the streets over here.
Sure. But they have lights on their cars, red and blue lights going.
And that's what happened the last time, too. We've got jacked up on people that had red light, red and blue light.
Do you remember?
A main goal of investigators was understanding how a planned arrest turned into a deadly shootout in a residential neighborhood.
I can tell you, having been a criminologist and police specialist for pretty close to half a century now, that you don't use a maneuver like this, thing they call a pinch maneuver. It's because it would involve some officers. If you pull alongside someone or you put yourself in front of someone, you give them a target. And action is always faster than reactions. It suggests to me a reckless state of mind.
Local prosecutors reviewed the Ahwatukee shooting and recommended no criminal charges against the agents. However, the attorney's office couldn't fully and confidently clear HSI from wrongdoing because there wasn't enough evidence to rebut the agent's statements to police. It was the 4th time in a year local prosecutors faulted HSI for not following investigative protocol, which could hinder review of an HSI-involved shooting.
There's a heavy emphasis right now on de-escalation. That is, things that police can do during an encounter with a citizen that reduce the likelihood that the encounter will end in violence. And so as I read that summary, that was what I wondered, was there any thought of trying to de-escalate that encounter rather than having it end the way that it did. The key issue is weighing the public safety concerns versus the value of apprehending the suspect immediately.
HSI refused to answer the Howard Center's questions, but a retired HSI agent who now directs the Federal Law Officers Union provided comment via Skype.
And I understand that happened in the one of those over there in Arizona where the vehicle was rammed. You know, the co-conspirators were non-compliant, and now the situation escalates even more because now you know that there's, oh, whoa, wait a minute, these people are not even willing to pull over their vehicle. Now, that elevates your adrenaline, it elevates your situation.
The police collected a nearby home security camera's recording of the gunfire as evidence, but didn't analyze it. The Howard Center shared the file with ballistics expert Stephen Beck, who spent 15 years analyzing gunshot acoustics for the FBI.
When an event happens, like a shootout, people don't remember exactly what went on. But sometimes the acoustics can add some additional information about what happened. I wanted to find out where the shooters were actually standing. Where was the microphone? I kind of correlated those with the locations and with where the reflecting surfaces were. And everything kind of made sense. That very first gunshot had all the characteristics that were consistent with the Sig Sauer.
Federal law enforcement does not make its use of force data available to the public, but the Howard Center found more than a dozen HSI shootings across the country, 8 since 2018, mostly in Arizona.
Usually something like this doesn't happen in a vacuum, but there have been things like this going on before. And if that were so, then and they weren't doing anything about it, they didn't take any corrective action, they didn't take any disciplinary action, then that paves the way for a tragedy like this to occur.
After the death of Michael Brown and in Ferguson and Eric Garner in Staten Island and a host of other controversial shootings, there was a lot of pressure on police departments to reform, and a lot of those focused on use of force. Federal agents work for the Attorney General of the United States, who is a political appointee, so ultimately if there was enough pressure, that same kind of process could happen at the federal level.